is up, podheads? Back with another episode of the Podio Slave podcast. My name is Tony, joined as always by Anthony. And how you doing, man? I didn't ask you last week, so I'm asking you this week. And full context, I didn't ask you 3 minutes ago. We recorded the other intro, but
hey, you didn't ask and you don't care, so
no,
I'll answer
I
anyway. I am doing great. I'm doing great. It's funny doing these when the listener doesn't really have any context about what we just did before we just recorded this, which we did another intro, and then it was for another episode that we recorded a month ago. And this conversation, which you clicked on it, you know, it's Jay Reason. This was about a month ago, right?
Yeah, right around there.
Yeah, we had the conversation about a month ago, so we're doing the intro pretty close to when the episode's going to drop. And Jay Reason, 30 years of Connecticut hardcore. We did another one of these with Chris Linkovich, Cruel Hand, Outbreak, Now in Terror, Cheap Life Records, that whole thing about a year ago, year plus, about Maine hardcore, because see, kind of same timeline, 30 years in the game. So we said, hey, let's do another region. And we've always kind of wanted to have Jay on, like just in general. Before we kind of had an angle, Jay's someone that I've followed for years. We followed for years and years and years. And, you know, getting a 30-year retro episode with him was perfect. That was the move with him.
Yeah, and we did. Don't forget the Burning Corona one we did too, forever ago.
Oh, that's right.
Long Island. So we've done this a couple times, but Jay was the perfect person for the Connecticut version. He's got Static Era Records up and humming again. Brick and Mortar, go check that out if you're in the area. He actually recorded from the shop, I think, right? When we talked to him. So
he did. Really
fun kind of interspersing of his personal stuff too, musically, into what went off in Connecticut over the last 25, 30 years. So fun convo, lots of really cool stories, nuggets. Jay was perfect for this, and really, really happy that we were able to pull it off.
And we cooked too. I don't know how long it's gonna. I think it's an hour and a half.
It's a little long. It's me in the long-ish era, but we appreciate everybody that's clicked on it.
Oh hell yeah! And if you're new to Jay, I mean, if you're clicked on if you're a regular of ours, and you don't know Jay, he's got unreal resume. If you are familiar with Jay, you know the resume. But you know, Voice of Reason, vocalist back in the day, The Distance, who was on Bridge 9. That's kind of when I was introduced to Jay. He was in Blackened with a bunch of the Hatebreed dudes. Ran Stillborn Records with Josta for years. Like Tony said, Static Era Records. He does the Diablo's Den podcast with Isaac, Danny Diablo. And he does the War God Collective, which is a record label that does a lot of like re-releases and stuff. A lot of cool stuff. He's been in the game for so long. And I mean, I think we may have told him this, but for anyone that we were going to do this Connecticut one with, it was going to be either him or try to get Josta himself on. And I don't think that was going to happen. So
no, yeah, we tried during Tat to the Earth, and it's just tough. Josta's a busy man too, but Jay also super busy. Lots of stuff there. Click on all the links in the show notes. It's all there. And on the socials too, follow him everywhere you can. And thanks for checking out this episode. Let's get into it. Want to get into it?
Let's roll, baby. This is an all-time combo. One of my personal favorites. Jay, thanks for coming on. And if you're here, thanks for listening. All right. You know him from Voice of Reason, The Distance, Blackened, Stillborn Records, Static Era Records, War God Collective, Diablo's Den podcast. Jay, did I miss anything?
Oh God, I'm sure you did, but that's enough where people won't hate me for too much shit. So.
Yeah.
So
that's on the borderline of being annoying, I think, if any we add anymore.
One, we're stoked. Two, thanks for coming on with us tonight.
And likewise to both of you. I just had told you before we jumped on that I'm really excited to talk to you guys about Connecticut hardcore and everything that encompasses, man. So thank you both for having me on. I'm really excited about this one.
So we did an episode like this. So we're from Maine. I don't know if we told you that. We're from Maine. We did an episode like this with Chris Link, and he started going to shows in the mid 90s. So we're like, dude, 30 years of Maine hardcore. Yeah. He's the guy. There's no one else. Yeah. He's the guy. So then we were like, hey, what's another region we love? Like, we love New York. We love Connecticut. Cali's great. Florida's popping. Let's do Connecticut. And it was kind of just you, Jay. Like you or Jamie. I mean, it would be you or Jamie.
I appreciate that. I appreciate it. I think obviously no one can hold up to Josta, or I would have said like, you know, Pete or Aaron from Death Threat or any of those guys. So thank you for letting me be on and represent that. Also, shout out to Chris Link, because he is a Static Era alumni. We did a record together right in the pandemic started. He was actually my fourth release when I was getting the label off the ground. Zeus did that. It's a little full circle moment between everybody there. Yeah, and dude, actually, when Linkovich was in Outbreak, Distance and Outbreak were kind of like so intertwined. We toured so much. So I have some really great stories with Linkovich and all those guys. So yeah, great episode to be compared to, you know?
Yeah, and we like doing these like regional deep dives because so many people lived those moments and we didn't get to. So we want to hear like we lived in some of the main stuff, but we didn't live a lot of the Connecticut stuff. I know
Yeah.
Anthony, you had some of the mass stuff in the early 2000s, but it's always fun to get from the source somebody who was there for that kind of region's, heyday,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I started going to shows super young, like right around 16 or so, which I guess maybe doesn't seem that young to kids now, but back then I was definitely one of the younger ones in the room, right around eighth, ninth grade. My brother let me tag along. I don't think he really wanted me to, but he let me go to some shows. And I can remember going to like some teen center stuff, which was like our local neighborhood kind of bands. But then I remember him taking me to the tune in, which was like our CBGBs of the time or whatever, like the lineups there were insane. If anybody saw that Strife VHS from back in the day, their Connecticut show was filmed at that venue. So it was a pretty cool place. And
I
man,
have that VHS. Yeah.
oh, dude, yeah. So
Yeah.
if you check out the Connecticut part, you'll see like Big E and Grippo and all of these Connecticut people in the line. And yeah, man, I was just hooked. Like my brother took me to that, and I just never had seen anything like that. I loved music my whole life, and just had never seen how, I guess, interactive or how engaged you could be. Everything always seemed so far away. Everything seemed so like MTV and big. So to see this firsthand and just be like, wow, this is cool. I could probably do something like this. It was awesome.
Well, and you get to make friends and get to find out that it's big, but it's not as big as you think it is, right? Like a lot of people know a lot of other people, and like we've already talked about, Chris Lank, like having
Yeah.
connections there from Maine to Connecticut, and my soon-to-be brother-in-law used to live in LA and worked at some club, but he used to hang out with one of the dudes. He used to hike with one of the dudes from Strife. So small,
that's awesome.
Small world.
Yeah, it's crazy because like, a lot of my friends that I still interact with to this day from the scene were like pre-internet people. So like shout out to somebody like Joe Hardcore who like I met, early on, like I think we're playing in New Jersey somewhere or Long Island or something like that, But it's kind of crazy. Like you said, it's so much smaller, and then internet happened and it became just even more interactive. And it was just, yeah, man, it's been probably one of the most fun things I've been a part of, and I've done a lot of cool shit. And that's definitely the one thing I keep doing. Like you said, I'm 46, so I've been going to shows, 30 years, which is pretty wild when you say it like that. Cause it definitely doesn't feel like it, man. In my head, I still feel like I'm like a 18-year-old dude who's just stage diving to VOD or something at the tune in.
Yes.
So let's context set. It's mid 90s. Let's talk the tune in for a sec. Cause we follow Brian Fair, Shadows Fall Overcast.
Yeah.
He posted something, I don't even know when, in the last couple of years. It was a lineup at the tune in. I was like, that's a fucking festival now. Like, did it feel like that back then?
So, dude, I was so, I was young and there was no internet, right? So I kind of tell this to people now, to kids being in bands, right? It's like, I didn't have anything to compare anything to, right? I had my like 5 CDs I owned. They weren't probably the right ones or whatever, so everything felt special to me, man. Like I would buy a demo, I would buy a 7-inch, everything felt magical. So I don't know if I'm the right person to answer that, because I was just so young that everything felt like bigger than life, dude. It felt like a movie, What I can say is that watching bands like, say, like VOD, or even if the singer now is totally crazy, but 25 to Life, or Hatebreed, or any of these bands at the time, dude, just watching that interaction and watching kids just be so like excited into it, dude. It was just, yeah. I mean, I don't know if so much that if the shows felt like festivals, but you just looked forward to seeing all of that shit happening and going down, that it was just, yeah, I mean, it felt surreal, like a movie.
Yeah. And so take us back to the mid 90s, those first couple of shows. What was it that drew you in? You went with your brother and tagged along a little bit, but like what got you into the room that made you want to stay in the room?
I could tell you, man, honestly, it was definitely, I think 25 to Life played. So it was an early show that they did at the tune in, right? So again, my brother used to take me to the teen centers and stuff. And I had like a little kind of like Rage Against the Machine kind of band or whatever, I was trying to do some stuff, but nothing, I didn't know anything about hardcore or anything like that. My brother did. And he took me, and I remember seeing 25 to Life. And dude, at that time, they must have what drew like it felt like 1,000 people. You know what I mean? You see some of these videos, right? So I remember just walking into that room and seeing people like not too much older than me, seeing something like 25 to Life that I was like, oh, this dude's just like, I don't even know if he's singing or screaming or whatever the fuck he's doing, right? Like Rick was on another level, but seeing something like that, it made the like the level of entry feel like, wow, maybe I could do this again. So I was a kid who wanted to be, you know, like in a band and doing some shit like, you know, on a stage, right? So seeing stuff like that, it felt like, okay, maybe that's like attainable, you know. And I think just from that, my brother played in a band called Vision 12 that opened up for like Madball and for Hatebreed and some other cool bands. So seeing them and going to practice and just kind of seeing how they were doing shit versus like, again, dude, I thought everything was like MTV, so I didn't know how you would do anything. So seeing this kind of like little path was just, dude, I was hooked, man. Like I said, I'd go to every show at the tune-in, whether it was a ska show, punk show, weirdo show, like you would just go. Cause again, there was not really like an internet per se, like, you know, maybe like a year or two later, the drummer of Voice of Reason had like a 28.8 modem, right? So we would like look up East Coast hardcore message board show listings. And dude, me and Yvonne, shout out to Yvonne who sings for 25 to Life now, and he's my best friend and sang in Dead Wrong and a bunch of other cool Connecticut bands. But like, dude, we would just hop in the car and drive to shit because again, we were just so hooked. There was nothing like it, dude. We would drive to Trash America, to all these record stores. I mean, again, dude, I was just hooked. That initial burst, man. Like I can't explain it to you guys other than it just really hit me. I think at a time I needed something like that, you know, as a kid. And it just, yeah, for better or worse, man, it has stayed, you know?
Yeah, I can relate to that. Yeah, absolutely.
It's funny, like Tony, I'm gonna age you, Tony. Tony's 41. I'll be 40
okay.
in a month. So
Okay.
we're a little behind you. So our equivalent's early 2000s up in Maine. And I'm trying to think of the equivalent. And it was like seeing a band like Downset. And it was like,
Yep.
I know this is where I want to be, but it feels like a movie, almost like I'm not supposed to be there. You know what I mean? At the same time. So it's this weird, like, almost like a rated R movie. Like you're sneaking to watch it, right?
And again, at the time, it's not like today where hardcore is just like a genre of music, right? It was kind of like hidden. You had to find it. Like, you know, maybe you found it because like one of the weird kids at your school was playing in a more alternative grunge band and they happened to be playing in that club. And then you got turned on to something like that, you know? Yeah, man. And to speak of Maine, like the Cave, did you guys ever get to go up to the Cave, like Kathy's place up there?
Yeah.
So yeah, we played there and that place was just magical too. So again, I could imagine like if I was a kid in Maine where there was really not, especially if you're in Bangor, like where shit was super far from everything, that must have felt like a movie. You have Blood for Blood playing, Death Before Dawn, or like Sworn Enemies coming, Full Blown Chaos is coming. You know, like I used to send Kathy stuff all the time when I had the Stillborn office. She's just a magical woman. So it was like crazy to go up there and play and see her space and just have such a great time. Yeah, again, I could imagine a kid up there just being like, fuck, this is so cool. You know, and then seeing these bands come to your town and everybody's for the most part is approachable. They're cool. They're like, yeah, kid, if you got a band next time, you'll open. Like it just everything felt like I said, like a movie, you know, like, fuck, how am I playing this right now? Or how am I doing this? Just stuff didn't make sense really, you know?
Well, and it's not like they came to Portland, Maine. They went to fucking Bucksport, right?
Yeah.
Which is the middle of nowhere, Maine. If you look at it on a map, there's not a ton of stuff around it. You're like what, a half an hour, 45 minutes to Bangor, but you're not close to Portland. Like it's a haul once you get into the state. You still got a couple hours to get there. So
when I first met the Outbreak guys, it was funny. One of the first things that we used to ask them, because sometimes we would all drive together, I would just be like, how far is, and I would name different things. And they'd be like, how far is Walmart or McDonald's? And he'd be like, an hour. Everything was so far from where they were. Because I feel like those guys lived closer to, I can't remember where Ryan lived, but Chuck, the guitar player of Outbreak, owned like, his family owned like a hotel and like a ski park right by the border. I remember us coming back from Montreal and staying there overnight. So it was like, but yeah, everything felt far. So again, like just going back to the original question, man, I can imagine like in that time frame, just a young kid falling in love with that. But yeah, man, I was hooked instantly. I'm sorry that I answered that really long, but yeah, I was hooked instantly. And then at that time too, there was a lot of people doing different stuff. So while the tune-in was kind of like the main club, Jamie Joster from Hatebreed had kind of like, I don't know what the true origin of him and Fernando Pinto's quote unquote like falling out, but Hatebreed and Jamie were like banned, from the tune-in, and they couldn't play there and all this stuff. So Jamie used to book all these shows crazy lineups. Those, like, you look at those are like true festivals now. But he would book those shows in kind of like surrounding areas. So there was like these two really strong, thriving scenes, and you'd see these group of kids at just like both places. So like, yeah, it was just like a really magical time, I think, to just be going to shit and being around stuff and being involved.
So I gotta ask, I'm kind of doing the math here. You're probably 16, 17 when Satisfaction drops, and obviously like we have like 30 years of appreciation. But when that dropped, how was it? Were you like,
we played the record release show? It was crazy. Ended in a riot. So yeah, Voice to Reason. Shout out again to Jamie and all those Hatebreed guys. You know, we were so fortunate, Anthony. Like, I just posted a flyer. I'll have to send it to you the other day. Was at the first show that we got from Jamie. It was like my first real interaction. And this was probably, I think, like 97, 97, 98, like 96, one of those, right? But it's Easter Sunday. And I remember maybe about a month or so before, I had met Jamie at one of the shows, and I gave him the Voice Reason demo. Because everybody at the time was like, oh, if you want to play the real shows, because we were playing tune-in, but we weren't playing like those, you know, Bike Exchange and all the other places, right? So everybody's like, oh, you got to get your demo to Jamie, got to get your demo to Jamie. So he happened to be at something. I gave him my demo and kind of just, you know, kind of said like, hey, man, if you got something, we'll take whatever, like, you know, happy to help you, whatever. And so we get a call to open a show on Easter Sunday with Cold as Life, Tyrant Trooper, 2x4. I come from a pretty religious background with my parents. My mom was not thrilled at all about us playing on Easter Sunday, but I knew we had to do it. Like, I can't explain to you that, but I just knew. I was like, all right, fuck, we want to like do something. Because he had said to me, I remember the message was like, hey, if you can do this show, I will give you something else. Because I think everybody knew Easter Sunday was going to be beat. And dude, it was funny. So we play the show. It's whatever. We're like, the flyer's crazy because it says like metal, fucking all this shit, and we're like the most like, you know,
right.
metal band, whatever, right? But what was cool outside of just getting the friendship from Jamie was that next show, dude, listen to this lineup, was we opened. So it was us, Despair, Hatebreed, Warzone, Strife, and H2O.
That's a festival. That's the biggest festival going, dude, now.
There must have been like, I think probably like 300 or 400 kids. That was at Sports Palace, which is like a notorious venue in I think it was in New Britain. A lot of kids got like robbed and shit out there. The neighborhood was wild. But yeah, dude, like, just from doing that, we got that show. And again, I just kind of like, you know, stayed in Jamie's ear, just being like, hey, man, if you need somebody to do flyers, or again, I wanted to kind of learn the craft a little bit too. You know, I kind of at that point was like a little more interested too in seeing how shit happened. And yeah, we just kicked off a friendship that then, like, you know, lasted a bunch of years, and, you know, worked the label and did a bunch of stuff with the band. And it was cool.
But the album, in the moment, was the album, were you guys like, this is a fucking banger? So
funny enough, I got to hear it before it came out. So we went to go see BOD was playing with Earth Crisis in Long Island, and Jamie was like, I need you to give a copy of Satisfaction on a dub cassette to Carl from Earth Crisis. I didn't know Carl, went right up to him, was like, hey, this is from Jamie. But yeah, we knew that record was like, we just knew it was going to be awesome. It was on Victory. You know, they were wearing all the Connecticut shirts. The thank you list was super long, so everybody was in it, all the bands, everybody was named. That record release show was like awesome. Like, every time I see that we were on the flyer for that, I always just bug out. It ended in a riot, of course, typical Hatebreed fashion, you know. But
was that the skate park one?
No, that was at Tuxedo Junctions.
Okay.
I'll send you the flyer.
There's a skate park video on YouTube from that era.
So that's before that. That's the infamous, I think, like Garage Riot, it's labeled, or something, where you hear somebody at the in the Mad Ball get hit. I don't know the full details about that, or I mean, if I did, I probably couldn't talk about it anyways. But yeah, like, that predates the Satisfaction record release. But yeah, Satisfaction record release was wild, man. The bouncers at that venue were like being very aggressive. It was very much like a rock club. That show should not have been there. And there was a band called Follow Through. I don't know if you guys remember them, but they were playing that, and one of the kids from the Follow Through crew was like getting like beat up by the security. And that just like fucking set it off, man. Like, you know, you could tell the night was already building to something big, you know, like, and that just set it off. But yeah, it was magical, man. They did the record release after at Trash America. So everybody who played then went to the record store that was like up the street, and you bought your copy. And it was just, yeah, man, it was a cool time in Connecticut for sure when that came out. And it just opened up the door to so much shit for people, you know?
How many people were there?
I would say Tuxedo Junctions is probably like venue people don't kill me. I think it's probably like a 250, 300 cap room, something like in that area, because it wasn't as big as say like Toads, but it was definitely like a bigger room. So I probably would guess. You know what? I'm probably just look it up really quick in a second.
But like my point is like that's something that 2,000 people today say they were at, right? Like it's just one of those. Like, yeah, I was there.
Oh, yeah.
I was definitely
Okay.
there.
Yeah.
All right, so they're saying Webb says it was a 600 capacity room, and that show was definitely sold out for sure. So I feel like it was probably a little smaller than 600 at that time, or it was probably scaled in. But yeah, let's say it was like definitely above 400 Connecticut hardcore kids, just like angry and ready to like mosh your face off. You know, it was yeah, it was wild, man. That show was a lot of fun.
And I mean, you're part of history there, being on the flyer and playing the show, and you know, having those times to be like, yeah, I was there. I actually was there. See, this is my band on the flyer versus some
Here's
of the people
receipt.
that are, some of the people are like, I was there. Like, yeah, you weren't there. There's only 300 people there. Like, fuck off. Today it'd be thousands, but
I think that's what makes for today's like a good guest, man. Because like if you see like both of my, you know, the bands I've been on, we played with everybody and everything, and I work with a lot of the guys, you know, pretty much all your favorite bands in Connecticut, you know. So I've definitely been a guy who's been around. So I'm excited to dive into some of the stuff that we talk about for this.
So if I think Connecticut hardcore, I do think Hatebreed, I think Death Threat, I think 100 Demons, and that was at least for Death Threat was probably what 97 forming, 100 Demons maybe 98, 99, and like that pretty much defined that sound. The era that I got into was the early 2000s, which was very different, right? It was The Distance, it was With Honor, Life in Your Way. It was
Shout out With Honor.
In Pieces.
Yeah, In Pieces was so good.
So did the scene reject any of the melodic stuff, or could it all breathe together?
I think it's funny you said that. So like one time I was talking to do you guys know Tom Sheehan from Indecision, Axe to Grind?
He was on.
We've had Tom on, yeah.
Oh, he was on. Okay, so Tom's a homie, and we always just kind of talk shop about that stuff. And I always kind of say like back then everything was hardcore, right? Like you got like a very catalog, for instance, and like the Get Up Kids, they were hardcore, right? So it's like I feel like Connecticut, for the most part, everybody kind of looked out for each other, you know. So like a lot of times when you see those lineups, say like the Hanover House, which Jamie was largely responsible for booking a majority, I would say about 90% of the flyers you see for that, right? The bills are so mixed and so diverse. And it was just because like, yeah, everybody was hanging out. Everybody was melting pot. So like you would see the dude from With Honor or you know, or like In Pieces at like a Hatebreed show. So it'd just be like, hey man, want to come play this thing? Like we're booking this, you know. Everybody just kind of got along. It was really cool. And I think everybody back then, it wasn't so competitive. There wasn't like this internet thing. There wasn't Instagram. You weren't competing against all this shit. It was kind of just like, yeah, man, I'll play. I'll do this. I'll do that. And it was a lot of fun, you know? So when you see those lineups, especially like in Connecticut, you'll see something like a With Honor, and then it'll be like With Honor, Dead Wrong, Pale Horse, Distance, you know, it's just kind of like, but everybody's homies getting along. So it's like, you just want to hang out with your friends. And I feel like for the most part, it worked. I mean, obviously there were some, you know, some bands that were kind of like, I would say, outside of, you know, like the bubble that I lived in. So I don't know how their perception was, but that's always at least how I perceived it, was that like everybody kind of just got along and wanted to be friends. I think also too, so like I started doing a lot of stuff for Stillborn, right? So With Honor is one of the bands that I signed, however you want to, that means today, right? But they were one of the bands that we worked with. The first thing I did for Stillborn was actually the Right Brigade EP. So I don't know if you guys remember that. We did the 7-inch for that.
Nice.
Yeah, and I just loved, again, dude, the fact that you could put something out and see it in a CD and da-da-da-da. So shout out to my boy Chris McLean from Stretch Armstrong. He says, hey, do you know this Connecticut band With Honor? And I had never heard of it. I didn't even know the guys yet. And I was like, fuck. And that was the first time I felt like, I'm like, okay, I got to kind of like go outside of our bubble, you know, because me and Justin kind of just went to the same sort of traditional heavier shows or whatever. And I started interacting with those guys a lot, signed Blacklisted at the same time. And I would say like when those bands kind of like came on board, it felt like maybe, I don't want to say like, oh, they were accepted into the scene, because that sounds so corny, but I feel like it opened up the door to those dudes being around more, coming around more, being at our shows more, and vice versa. And I think when you have a thriving scene that people are just kind of helping each other, that's when shit's popping. And again, like you guys said, you had With Honor on Victory, you had Hatebreed, you had Demons, Death Threat. It was like all this shit was happening. Pale Horse, you know, all these fucking amazing bands are popping. It's just like, it's contagious, you know. when there's a great scene and people are looking out for each other, man, like whether it's even back then or today, you see it. It's just very contagious.
Well, and sharing members and hey,
Yeah.
so and so
Yeah.
can't play tonight. You want to play guitar for us? Like, just jump on stage. So that I feel like that happens the most in hardcore of all the bands and scenes we've talked to over the 5.5 years and almost 300 episodes. We hear that a lot there because it does feel like family in comparison to some of the other scenes, where there's a little less, at least at this time anyway, there's a little less competition, there's a little more hey, oh, you're down a man, like we'll help you out, we'll step up.
I think too, when you are like involving other people to fill in and stuff too, right? It's just like natural to tell, like if you're on a label, like say like me and Anthony are working together, he'll be like, yo, Tony's band is cool, he fills in for me, right? So you just feel like, you're like, yeah, check it out. And then you meet Tony, you're like, yeah, this dude's cool, throw him the bone. A lot of like Stillborn stuff was like that. It was just like people I liked. I mean, still till this day, the bands I work with, man, a lot of times I don't have to understand the music. I just like that person. I'm investing in the person. I'm investing in helping them however I can, and that hasn't changed then or now.
I love that.
Thanks, man. Yeah, it's really how I roll, dude. It's a lot of fun.
So like, I feel like that melodic sound kind of defined like early 2000s, but like Fastbreak existed in the 90s, and I'm a Rev fanboy. So where did they fit in the 90s?
So, dude, I love that. Again, talking about Voice Reason played Fastbreak's record release in Boston. Those were like the homies. I still talk to Coach. Shout out to Steve Pica. Dude, they were like, again, to me, I would say like, obviously I loved all Hatebreed and everybody, but Fastbreak was like my band, same as you, Anthony. Like they were just, I think because they were a little bit more melodic, which is what I liked. Pat the singer was talking about girls and stuff that I could kind of relate to a little bit more, Yeah, they were like a fan favorite, dude. They were like a band, them. There's this awesome band that I would try to shine a light on all the time because they kind of gotten lost in the sands of time. But there was a band called Some of All Fears. I don't know if either one of you guys are familiar with them.
Yeah, they were the first Bridge 9 release. I have their 7-inch.
Yeah,
the tenfold. I think it's tenfold. Some of All Fears. Yeah.
Yeah, so they did like a EP. It's like a longer EP kind of album or whatever. But they did that in a 7-inch for a label called East Coast Empire. That was a sick Connecticut label. Did a bunch of cool bands like Divided by Hate and some others, Fear Tomorrow and a couple other things. But Some of All Fears was, so they did this great record called This Day Forward that I encourage everybody to check out on streaming. Like, to me, that record should have been massive. It like defines Connecticut, like 90s hardcore. The stuff on the Bridge 9 split is sick, but you should listen to the album and their demo. It's super sick. So them, Fastbreak, Tenfold, they were kind of like that other tier. So like you had Hatebreed, Death Threat, Death Threat started in 98, so they kind of like right around there, but that was like that kind of other, Follow Through was a big one. They were sort of those next big bands that would be opening for like Madball or Strife or whatever. But yeah, man, a Fastbreak show was like wild. That's where I would stage dive. Those are the bands I would sing along to. That was kind of the Connecticut hardcore that I liked a lot more faster, melodic. I love the mosh stuff, but dude, definitely I think like the more melodic, like that Some of All Fears is a really good balance. And definitely, like I said, encourage people to listen to that record because to me, it just defines Connecticut sound of like 99, 98. It just like perfectly encapsulates that.
So at this time, late 90s, before like the kind of the melody stuff comes into play, you're in a band obviously, but are you also like, and you said you had some interest in like the behind the scenes stuff, and clearly that's always been a thing because you're still doing it. Were you like, I gotta jump into that too from the jump, or was that like, I'm in a band, this is cool, all right, now I'm gonna start doing that stuff too?
I think it just, again, going back to like, I just always been interested in music, right? So my one of my first jobs ever was working at a record store. It was where I could walk to it from where we lived. So I worked there, and just, dude, seeing like, music like on a shelf or a tape or a CD, and again, me always wanting to be in that. I was, how the fuck do people make this shit? Like, I didn't understand it, And then again, when I started going with my brother to shows, I would see kids like, you get handed a zine, or you would see like a 7-inch of like a band you never heard of. So I just always loved that, that's how, like to tell just a quick story about working with Don Fury, right? I was 17 years old and I would see Don Fury's name on every release. So I was like, man, this dude did everything, Gorilla Biscuit, Stick of It all this shit. Again, there's no internet, so I don't really know who he is. I just see his name all the time. I'm working at Strawberries at that time. And I remember calling Revelation because I needed a phone number for Don Fury. I didn't know how the fuck to get him. So I call information 411 and I'm like, oh, California, Long Beach, Revelation Records. Surprisingly, get a number, call Revelation Records, and just, dude, again, like just the being young and stupid, right? Like you call, I'm like, hey, my name's Jay. I'm trying to get a phone number for Don Fury, and somebody's like, oh, hold on, I'm on hold for like a minute. Somebody comes back, they're like, here's the number, call Don Fury. And, Voice to Reason was kind of like just happening. Like we're getting our demo together and we're learning how to get our songs and stuff. I called Don. Then like 2 days later, man, he calls back. He gives us a quote. We start saving. And the next thing I know, we're recording with him, our demo. Right. But
Amazing.
out of that whole experience was like to just kind of talk about the like manufacturing and the label and all that stuff. Right. What was important to me, I think, was I was absorbing everything around me. Right. Like, okay, if we want to make a good impression, Don Fury is the way to do it, right? So like obviously we could have just recorded in Connecticut, could have done all this stuff, but I knew that if I wanted to be taken seriously, I was younger than everybody. I wanted to be taken seriously. We got to make this kind of thing, right? So we spent $1,000 on our demo back then. So that might as well have been $1 million, right? Each one of us saved $250. I remember my dad drove us to Don Fury's, and again, dude, that's the demo that got us with Jamie, right? So I knew when I saw those things happening, I knew that there was something like kind of like the pieces of the puzzle. And then I just straight up asked, like, once Jamie started giving us a bunch of shows, he had his label, he had Stillborn, and he was doing a couple of things. And then I liked the Right Brigade demo a whole lot. Like, shout out to Jesse Stanhart. I thought the demo was so great. They spun out of Fastbreak too. So it was a way to like work with the guys from my favorite band, Pat was playing guitar. And I remember just saying to Jamie, like, oh, dude, you got to sign Right Brigade. Got to sign. And he's like, oh, why don't you just do, you just, and I was like, what do you mean I just do it? I didn't understand, right? He's like, just ask them if they'll do a record. And I was like, all right. So I remember calling Jesse, and I was like, oh, I want to do a record. Like, I didn't know. And between both of them, they were both very humble to me, and kind of we made it happen. And dude, I was just hooked. Like 6 weeks later, I'm holding a pink Right Brigade 7-inch that everyone's going crazy for. It was just, dude, like I said, I was hooked till this day. When I get a box of CDs or vinyl for a Static Era title, man, I'm opening 10 of them. Or, we just reissued that Agnostic Front Sick of All Gorilla Biscuits thing, man. I dude, the day that pallet came, I was like, oh my God, like it just, I was hooked, man. So when Jamie gave me the opportunity to kind of like sign whatever you want, I remember that just feeling so exciting. And then as Hatebreed got busier, he was still doing the label, but there was a lot more opportunities, right? And I kind of said to him like, hey man, I'm like, I was like working retail or whatever. And I was like, hey man, I'll quit my job and get an office space for us. And I was like, let's do the label, like for real. And that's how we did like with Honor and Blacklisted and all these cool bands. Cause it was just like, again, dude, being young and just being like, yeah, man, let's just do something. That's how we did it. And I like I said, man, I was hooked, seeing kids back at the tune-in handing you zines and CDs and compilations. And, like I said, man, I was hooked. And when I knew that you could just do it yourself, look around me and I make the sign, I make all the shit that you see at the store, so it's a bug that has stayed.
Dude, I love this because I worked college radio, so I have like back in the day, so I have like had a little glimpse of this, but like doing this podcast, just ask.
Yeah, oh yeah. That's
ask.
The first thing I tell everybody is literally like because again, having the shop, my whole thing is I always say I'm creating the next generation of hardcore kids here. We've had like, dude, there's a bunch of new bands that have come out of the store and kids who they used to ride their bikes here, and now they drive to shows, and they're in the pit, kick flipping kids, like kick flipping everybody, dude, and seeing that shit is just like, man, it is so cool, just watching it happen and watching that infectious thing happen, and the kids come in and they ask about stuff, and I always tell them like, dude, just send a message, ask somebody. The worst thing they're gonna do is say no, or you won't get a response. But just manage your expectations, and you're good. Like,
that's key too. Manage your expectations.
Always listen, dude. I work with tons of clients. So like you guys know, I was telling you both off before we started. Yeah, managing expectations is like the most important thing in everything you do, especially if you're doing a band, in today's environment.
Yeah, and you're right. It's just ask. It's just dial 411 and ask for Don Fury's number. Like you just don't know. You just don't know.
There's no playbook. Just fucking ask.
Well, and what's funny, guys, is like at the time, again, just being oblivious to like what was going on. Like he had just finished Civ, Can't Wait 1 Minute More. And that was on like MTV and shit. And we're like calling this guy, not knowing like the connection. But, Don was like, Don recorded and produced every Voice to Reason material up until like one thing, like one split that we did right before the end. But yeah, dude, we did our album with him. Like, I was always really grateful for that. I tell a lot of these young kids that come in, like, hey, man, absorb everything you're doing. You know, if you're going to a great studio, don't fuck around. Like, watch the dude you're doing, ask questions, like, because you might not end up on the front of the stage, but maybe there's plenty of fucking jobs behind the stage or in labels or publishing or any of the other shit. And if you're the one who knows how to do it, guess what, dude? There are 20 people who are going to need you, and you'll be working with all your favorite bands. You know, look no further than your boy. You know.
Yeah. Well, and you're like you said, like if you're in there paying attention and willing to grind at your craft a little bit, whether it be making music or the behind the scenes stuff, you're going to get something out of it. If you're in there dicking around, it's going to be a lot more difficult for people to be like, yeah, I want to call Jay because he was screwing off in his session, his recording session. No, I'm not going to call Jay. I'm not going to do that. No, I will call him because he was paying attention. He wanted to learn about it. And, you know, you've made what you've made since then because of it. Because you were willing to A, ask the question, and B, learn, be a sponge, right?
Yeah. And I just always, man, I always just say yes to pretty much anything, right? Like, as I always say, if I have nothing better to do, like, I'll do it, right? So I can't tell you how many opportunities have come up from me just being like, yeah, man, I'll do it. Or, yeah, sure, why not? You know, I got to work on Godfathers of Hardcore with Ian McFarland, that documentary on AF, because of that. He called me when he was first starting it out, and he was just an idea, and he was like, could you help me with like a website? And I was like, yeah, dude, fuck, let's do it. Next thing you know, I'm, standing with Roger and Vinny watching the documentary with them at the stage. I mean, dude, it's cool, you know? So I tell people, I'm like, dude, if you kind of just be humble, manage your expectations, and just like be around and be cool, like bullshit will happen. I truly, firmly believe that, you know?
100%. It's funny, as you're talking, you mentioned Voice of Reason. It reminded me of a question I wanted to ask you, and it's a joke. It's a joke question, but
it's okay.
I have the New Beginnings record here.
Oh, yeah.
And here it is. I got to ask Jay, what's up with the photo shoot? Like, you're wearing ties, you're wearing button-ups. What's going on, Jay?
Man.
Do you know where we got that from?
No.
Fastbreak. So
no way,
Fastbreak.
really?
So Fastbreak had evolved into dressing nicer at shows. They did Music Is My Girlfriend. They were graduating. Voice of Reason idolized them, and that's literally where that came from. Like, we saw what they did with Fast Cars, Fast Women. So if you look at go look at Fastbreak photos of that era, and then go look at when our record comes out. That's all it was. Is again, dude, we were just kids. Like, you know, I mean, not kids. I was 18, 19, so not a kid. But dude, there wasn't the internet to look at all this stuff, or it was just kind of you saw the people in your scene. You're like, oh my god, that dude's cool. I'm trying to emulate that. Like, he's doing that. That fits my style way more than a mohawk, or way more than a camo hat, you know? Plus, dude, Voice Reason, girls, we all had girlfriends, we were trying to, we all had the part, so, but yeah, in a nutshell, man, that's kind of where that evolved from, was just, we saw Fastbreak do it. We wanted to do it. I thought you were actually going to ask me about the front cover, which is a whole different thing, because that cover was actually done by John LaCroix from 10 Yard Fight.
Yeah. It's on a subway, right?
I don't even know what the photo was. What sucked was, again, dude, being young, you ask these dudes, and I love all LaCroix, and he knows this. So it's I just wish back then that I had known how to vocalize what I wanted versus just saying yes because we had a cool person working on it. So we had our own, I kind of had my own ideas for the cover. We were originally talking to a different label at the time. One of the bigger hardcore labels at the time was supposed to do that record. I kind of regret not doing that there, but that's a different podcast episode. But LaCroix kind of just had this idea and this image. And again, dude, we were young, and he was in 10 Yard Fight, and he was cool. And we just were like, okay, if he says it's cool. I don't know if he just took the money and threw a photo on it. I had no idea. So we'd have to ask him. But yeah, there was just certain things that I wish I kind of spoke up about on that, because I definitely think the cover could have been a lot cooler. So I thought that you were going to ask me about that. But yeah, no, definitely it's just a Fastbreak homage on the inside.
So Jay, we're talking Voice of Reason. Voice of Reason ends. The Distance starts early 2000s. And I love that we've been talking 40 minutes. We're only 6 years into the 30.
Yeah.
This is amazing.
Hey, I warned you. I'm so sorry, guys. I'm going to do my best to speed up the next.
This is amazing. So Distance starts.
Yeah, 03, 04. Oh, actually, Distance starts 04.
01,
yeah,
02, maybe?
02, yeah, 02.
So is it a clear, hey, this is very different than Voice of Reason, or where are you guys at?
I don't know if it was clear that it was very different, although I can say this, that when the Distance starts, I know right away that I want to do a band full time. Voice of Reason was limited to just the members I had, because I was friends with everybody, right? So I was really close friends with all my guys. If you're not friends, you're not going to do the band, that kind of stuff, right? So Voice of Reason tours a little bit. We do down to Florida, Virginia, all that kind of East Coast stuff, right? but I'm just hooked. I'm doing the label with Jamie, and there's watching all this shit pop off. And I instantly am just like, all right, I'm gonna start a band, and I don't really know who or what it's gonna sound like. I'm just gonna fucking start a band, and I meet a couple guys, and yeah, we just go for it. We do the demo with Dean at Atomic in Brooklyn, which was an amazing experience working with him. He was just fucking awesome. Tom Sheehan does a little guest spot on that. And dude, we just hit the van running, dude. Like, I remember that's how became friends with Outbreak. So the singer from Outbreak, Ryan, used to run a site called X Ryan X, if you guys remember that. And he just like reached out, was like, hey man, does the Distance want to do a weekend? And it was Maine, New Jersey, and Massachusetts. So we just said, yeah. And instant friendship, dude. And the next thing you know, we're just like playing literally every weekend, going to Canada, New Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania, like everywhere, anywhere you could drive on the weekends. We would just go literally book, Friday to Sunday. We get on Bridge 9, which is just like magical at the moment. It's like the biggest label at that time. And then Connecticut's popping because you got Hatebreed, you got Demons, Death Threat, Pale Horse, like all these awesome bands. Yeah, and shit's just like popping, dude. At that time, the venues, though, we don't have like a steady venue per se. A lot of shit ends up happening at this place called the Wham Leg, which if you look at some of the flyers for that, shit's like insane, the lineups there. So there was the Wham Leg and the Knights of Columbus, and then there was the LNG, which was in New London. So a lot of cool shows happened up there. Those were kind of like the three, venues for a while. Jamie's booking at LNG for a little while, doing some of the shows there. And yeah, I mean, I would say it's just like everything was just, dude, crazy because we just had such a thriving scene, dude. There were so many great bands and everybody's friends, everybody's hanging out. I mean, dude, I was looking at a flyer for a show the other night and it was like free vodka bar. Like what? Just during the show. Like that's just such a vibe that you wouldn't see that today. You know what I mean? And that was just literally like I say to people, I'm like, that was crazy. Connecticut. That was Connecticut. Like you'd have a straight edge show with a free vodka bar so that the other kids would come out and just hang out and everybody's partying. And it's just, like I said, it was just such a magical moment, man, in that time. Like to see, dude, you'd have something like 100 Demons with Honor, Pale Horse, The Distance. It was just like everything so different, but everybody played. Everybody's in the parking lot hanging out, smoking weed, drinking, whatever, just having a good time. And it's still like that, man. I mean, I still see all the bands get along, but yeah, it was just something magical about that time. Like the thing that's unfortunate was that there wasn't like a main, like, there wasn't like the tune in or like a main venue like that, other than like the little VFWs and that stuff. There was the Hanover House.
Where's Toad's place come into this?
So Toad's is in New Haven. Another good riot story there with Death Threat at a Death Threat show there. Toad's is like, I would say like the Live Nation venue for us. So like Jamie had a really good relationship with them. So you would see a lot of the Stillborn Fest there. So we would do that. Like basically, because if Hatebreed would play, that was pretty much the biggest room in Connecticut, right? So like we need something big. Like we would do like New Year's Eve with Hatebreed, Glassjaw, The Distance, and like a couple other bands, so like you needed something kind of big. And Toads is a great place. I still go there, but it was never like a hardcore venue or like there wasn't like a hardcore booker there or anybody that like really was behind the
right on. I remember seeing it a lot.
Yeah,
being up from Maine, I remember seeing that a lot.
We did a lot of shows there, so we did a lot of like Jamie would do yearly. We would do Stillborn Fest. It would usually be right around Christmas, and that would be like we would do Maine, usually Portland, so it'd be like Maine, Massachusetts, Worcester, Connecticut, New York City, and then Poughkeepsie would usually be like the five, And yeah, like Toads was just like the biggest. It was just the biggest room we could do it in. But I think that had we had other options, for sure, those shows would have been somewhere else. I mean, the Toads and the staff, everybody's great, but I think that those shows would have been definitely somewhere else if we had a more hardcore kind of venue at the time.
At that point, are you thinking like, look at what we've been able to do in 10, 15 years, where we've gone from this kind of blossoming scene to now we're putting on Stillborn Fest and traveling around the region with it, and people are definitely down with Connecticut, music, Connecticut hardcore. And was there any like, wow, look at us, like look how far we've come?
I would say the switch was definitely like when Hatebreed Perseverance comes out. Like that was such a switch for us
major
in Connecticut.
Label. Yeah,
major label. Working on that record with Jamie and the band, just like the anticipation and just like, dude, like we got to go to we got to do backup. Me and Yvonne and a bunch of our friends got to do backup vocals on that record and record that record. And like just being in the studio and watching that record, man, you just fucking knew that shit was going to be huge. Like they just had like, they had the same management team. Jamie still has, I believe it's the same manager, but it was Steve Ross and Steve Richards who managed Slipknot during the self-titled in Iowa. And it was like you guys said, Tattoo, they were just like everywhere. The visibility of that band at that time was massive. And then they dropped Perseverance, which is like a fucking flawless album. And it was just, dude, it was like a fucking switch hit it, because at that time, right? So again, we have Jamie and I have this small little office in West Haven, Connecticut. We were doing mail order at the time. We're doing all the Stillborn stuff. So like where we have With Honors EP and their full length is just coming out. So there's like all this shit happening. We get a distribution deal with Caroline, which elevates the fact that we can ship more of our band stuff. There's just, like Sworn Enemy ends up getting signed to a major because of Hatebreed. Like it was just, like I said, like a switch, man. Like it felt, even Distance, like, dude, we were able to get a fucking massive record deal out of just that being around that energy, right? So it's just like, it was definitely like a switch in Connecticut. There was way more bands, way more people coming to shows. I think that at that moment, if there was ever like, I'll sit back and look and go like, that would have been that moment. Cause I remember just me and Jamie sometimes would just be like, yo, isn't it crazy that like this or that, or like, there was just, again, some of those things are just, now it's probably common, like, oh, everybody draws, every new hardcore band draws 1,000 people. But, dude, back then it was just such a milestone, and seeing that happen, those guys, Beatty and Jamie and all those Hatebreed guys put in so much work, and especially into our scene, that it really helped, man. Because a lot of dudes could have taken, could have gotten that level of success and then been like, yeah, you know what, dude, we're not going to fucking put on the local shows anymore. We're not going to fucking do we're not going to sign the With Honors of our towns, right? But it was the opposite. I remember one of the meetings, like with Jamie with the Perseverance, was he said to the guy like marketing the record, he was like, I need you to just give us X amount of money, because we're taking an ad in every fucking kid's fanzine, whether it's 5 copies that the kid makes or 500. And dude, we fucking did it. Like, yeah, like I said, it was just like, it felt like a switch, man. Like, again, this is like beginning of the internet. There's not social media, maybe I don't even know what's Friendster thing. There was nothing like that. So
yeah,
watching,
there's nothing at that point.
Yeah. So watching it organically happen, and again, dude, being kind of like a, like a co-pilot, if you want, on that. Watching
you're feeling like
evolve.
you're breaking into an office, like you're breaking into the big wigs, right?
Yeah, man. I mean, I got to go to Ozfest with those guys in 2002, so that was the year the record came out. I have a bunch of great photos of that year with those guys, and again, just watching how much work they put in, seeing it come back to them. And again, most people would just be like, all right, cool, we're all set with our scene, we don't need to do this no more. Like, these dudes are like, okay, we're doing a yearly fucking thing, and they're putting on Demons, Death Threat, Distance, Pale Horse, Dead Wrong. Like, they're looking out for their friends. Jamie's like, okay, what's Ivan's new band? What's he'd be like, there was certain kids he'd like in the scene, he's like, oh, what's that kid's band? Like, yeah, put them on, and like, again, man, where most people would probably just be like, all right, we've made our plateau, now we're just going to be in this area. These dudes were still fucking coming to shows, still booking shit, still doing shit. And that's a lot of what I carry today, right? It's just like, I saw it firsthand, man, and that's what I do now. Like, lead by, those guys definitely led by example, man, and a really great one.
Well, one of the things I love that they did is they play under a Call for Blood.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. They'd play under a Call for Blood, and they could play underplays, right? I remember those days. They did a couple
of those that, one of those was in like Wilkes-Barre that they did. I think it was in Wilkes-Barre that we went to. Fucking awesome, because it was like a radius clause on the Ozfest thing or something crazy. Yeah, man, it was fun. There was a couple Connecticut shows under Call for Blood. Yeah, man, it was just Hatebreed is such a Hatebreed, Demons, Death Threat, Pale Horse, Dead Wrong, Fear Tomorrow, Fastbreak, Follow Through. There's just Some of All Fears, dude. And there's a bunch of other bands I'm forgetting, man. But there's just such a lot of really cool people that just looked out for everybody, man. And I feel like if you were around us in that time, like I said, I look at those flyers and I'm like, oh my God, look, there's so-and-so's band. Like, they never played another show, but their first show was like Toads opening for fucking Hatebreed or something. Everybody wanted to look out for each other. I think that again, that's something I still try to carry with me,
Well, and that's kind of in contrast to, pop punk at the time, right? They're going like, get me out of this town, get me away from everybody. Where the hardcore scene's like, no, we want to keep everybody, we want to bring everybody with us to the next place or the bigger place. Like, let's keep going.
Right. And that's why I give so much credit to the Hatebreed guys, to Beatty and Jamie and those guys. Because again, it's like around the same time they're blowing up, there's a lot of other bands blowing up too. And a lot of those guys, maybe they didn't really come out back for their scenes or whatever, but these guys were in it, man, every day. Like I said, you'll still catch Wayne at a fucking show. You'll still see Beatty at a show, So it's really cool.
But Jay, I'm a huge Satisfaction guy, huge
Me too.
Perseverance, huge Rise of Brutality.
We have it on our
Oh,
wall, first
nice.
press.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
In My Eyes, Integrity. So I'm a huge fan of those albums, but my top CTHC album came out in 04. It's 9 songs, it's 24 minutes, and it's fucking perfection. And it's 100 Demons self-titled. That was a slow burn though. People didn't revere it like that in the moment, because that's I call this my era. 04.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a huge Demons fan. Shout out to Pete Morrissey, one of my dear friends and one of my favorite human beings. They've been in the studio. I think both of you guys know that, right? I'm not speaking out. They've been posting about it.
Heard it a couple weeks ago. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, you got to hear some of the songs?
No, we talked to
Chris Teddy from
yeah.
Shout out to Chris Teddy.
Yeah.
So he's working on that record too. So there'll be announcements really soon about that. There's a full length coming. It is fucking awesome. And again, dude, just going back to dudes who are always around. I mean, dude, Pete was just at a show on Saturday with us in the parking lot. You know what I mean, dude? Reesh still puts on shows. The drummer, Sean Martin, plays in Twitching Tongues. Like, comes to shows, comes to the shop. Like, again, all these guys just lead by example, which I think is so important, especially when you see a lot of these young kids coming to shows now. That I think it's cool that they see a lot of these guys still interacting. 100 Demons. I really can't wait for people to hear the new record. It's fucking awesome. I'm just gonna say that it's so good. Like Teddy and Greg, who played in the Risk Taken, actually, another Connecticut Stillborn band, is producing that record, and it's a fucking monster, man. It's gonna be really great. I think if you're a 100 Demons fan, it's everything you want and more.
So excited, man! You made my night. You made my night. So I think we're into like the mid 2000s. Like I said, this was my era. So this is Distance. This is With Honor. This is Pale Horse, Risk Taken, as you said, Hostage Calm, right? Kind of a lighter band, right? So there's this almost kind of changing of the guards, right? Because you have Hatebreed, who's kind of, I don't want to say they moved on, but like they can fill bigger rooms. You know what I mean? And so what comes at the tail end of this is the Distance, The Rise to Fall album, which, Jay, as much as I love everything we've talked about,
all right.
I'm a pop punk guy too.
Awesome.
I'm a pop punk guy. I love that record. So it was a mixed bag with responses, I remember in the moment.
I feel like this is what I'll say about the record. I say it all the time. I would record the record the exact same way today. I wish, again, in instances where I wish I could have spoke up more, which is why I think I work so hard for my clients. I wish I would have pushed back a little bit on the artwork, but we were under a deadline, and we had an original idea that Jake Bannon from Converge was doing for us. And I feel like the label was just like pressuring Jake to finish way quicker than he would have liked, which when you're an artist, dude, you can't be rushed. So shout out to Scott McGrath, who does Maggot Stomp. He came in and saved the day with like a last minute idea that Jeremy Sapper had. I think the execution maybe could have been better, but for better or worse, man, that's the way that album exists. But I'll say this, that at the time in my life, man, I needed to write that record. Shit was really bad for me. I've never been to therapy. I'm sure I could have probably worked it out in other ways, but you know what, dude, I got a cool offer to do a record, and at the time that was just the record that worked and I had to write. What I'll say is that I feel like 20 years later, which we're going to do some shows for next year. We played a couple shows like a year or two ago, and they went over so well. I feel like the record has aged better than ever, right? I feel like kids now, again, just going into that hardcore genre, they don't listen to it going like, oh, this is that or whatever. Where back then it was like, oh, that's Shade from the Distance. What the fuck? And like I vividly remember one of the Amazon reviews said, like, I don't care what this dude did for the scene or that he works with Jamie, the record sucks. So it was just like a way of people just like,
oh man,
doing whatever they do, which, listen, dude, it's totally fine. But I'm going to say this is that, like, we were given an opportunity to record a fucking amazing album, got an amazing budget, worked with one of my favorite producers who's still a really good friend of mine, Shep Goodman. Like, what kind of record am I going to make, right? I'm telling you that as a kid, I grew up listening, waiting for this fucking moment to record. I watched La Bamba to death, watched every documentary of everybody in this huge studio. I was like, dude, of course I'm going to go fucking make a record like that. It's what I like. It's what I listen to. And then given the opportunity to really push ourselves, and I really just felt like we were like a Carry On ripoff band. Like, everything that we were doing wasn't really a band until we kind of, for better or worse, found our sound. To me, it really sounded like, it's like AFI meets like a couple other mixed things, right? But kids didn't see it that way. And I was okay with that, dude. Like, I would record the record the same way. I say it all the time. Like, I'm so happy with that album. I'm happy that I got to support it that way. I'm happy that we got to work with some amazing writers and producers. Dude, we toured the whole world on that album. It was like amazing. Like, I think in a lot of ways too, man, like the scene really had our back when everybody was turning their like away from us. You know, like Connecticut really like would come out and just support. And they've made those songs like really kind of have a whole nother life, dude, that 20 years later, you know, like we can go play a show and draw like 250, 300 kids and sell at a small venue, which is like, I'm cool with that now, you know, whereas like 20 years ago, it was like, oh, fuck, what tour are we doing with this? That, you know, I'm sure you guys hear that when you're talking to like, you know, like any of the bands from our era, man. It was so different because you had to tour like that. You had to be on the road every weekend. You had to be doing things like that if you wanted. You needed the trailer, you needed the stuff. You know, we were trying to emulate all of our peers, Terror, Comeback Kid, all these bands that we went to Europe with. One of the things I kind of regret is that I wish that we would have kept going a little bit more after the record came out, because we were touring with like Day to Remember and Ice Nine Kills and a lot of these bands that were just kind of starting out that sounded very similar. We were just like, I'm not saying like we were like ahead or no bullshit like that. I'm just saying like we didn't have anybody to play with. So we were kind of playing with these dudes who were starting something that kind of we would have fit in there. And I do sometimes think like, fuck, what would have been like? You know, our second record, we were working with Chris Kirkpatrick from NSYNC. So we did a bunch of demos with him. So I have that whole like, I have like a whole bunch of sessions with him. Like Chris is still a friend, like still talk to him all the time. So I do just kind of like imagine like, fuck, what would that second record have been like, you know? But yeah, I mean, it just wasn't meant to be, dude. The touring and the level that I wanted to do shit at, like, it was another world, man. Again, too, you got to remember, I'm around all of these bands that are just firing on like 100 miles an hour. And in my band, I'm the only dude who's doing that. So it was like tough, but yeah, no regrets, man. I fucking love that record. Like, I'm so happy when people tell me they like it or they heard this, or like, you know, when they talk about Inspired by You, or, you know, like I said, we were really lucky to play a couple shows a few years ago. We've got some stuff planned for 20 years next year. You know, I'm just excited, man. I feel like lucky, dude. Again, I'm 46 years old, dude. Like I should fucking be focused on all this other shit. And I'm going to go play with a band, and I'm getting to put out hardcore records, and we're getting the next generation of hardcore kids ready at the shop. It's just, yeah, man, it's a different world for me, man. I know I can't relate to a lot of other adults, but I'm totally cool with that.
That's great though. 'Cause like, and looking back on something 20 years out, 19, 20 years out, right? In the moment, people are going to be what they are with it.
Yeah.
But the benefit of time, the benefit of different people finding it, more people finding it, maybe not necessarily even who are plugged into you 20 years ago. And it has a whole new life, right? Like you put, even though maybe in the moment it didn't feel 100% like what you wanted, after the fact, more and more people coming up to you. And it's like that, like I said, all those people that were at that riot, you know, now there's 2,000 people that like it. Now there's 4,000 people that were there, you know. It's kind of the same thing. And the beauty of having all this stuff on the internet, right?
If I could just talk about the record for one more time, just for a second, was like, you know, we had Bert from The Used come on and do a guest spot on it, man. And for me, that was magical. I love that record. So like, you know, man, just to be able to, because I think a lot of the people who were talking shit didn't even fucking listen to the record back then. It was just such an easy target, you know? So it's funny now it's all right to listen to it or whatever. And Pat, you know, however it goes, that I'm really glad that we put all in, and it's aged really well. So I'm super psyched. Thanks for bringing that up, Anthony and Tony, because I don't like to talk about my bands a lot because it feels like self-promotion and I don't really have anything to promote, but I do every time. I'm very appreciative when I can talk about the album and the band because it meant so much and still does mean a lot to me.
It's a great record. And
thank you, sir.
I just thought of this while we were talking, and maybe I'm misremembering it, but in the moment, Inspired by You was like the free iTunes song of the day.
Yeah.
So I downloaded it back in the day, and I still have my same Apple ID.
Oh, no shit.
Sometimes when I plug into my CarPlay, either that song automatically plays or a Talib Kweli, The Blast from High Tech and Kweli. It's one of those two songs or something.
That's awesome. So, dude, I got to shout out. It's funny you mentioned that. So my boy Damon Marzano, he actually worked at one of the biggest Connecticut hardcore, like just record stores called Phoenix and Waterbury. He worked at iTunes during that era, dude, and he used to put us, With Honor, Hatebreed,
fucking amazing,
Blackened, all on the front page. So, dude, you would see like every Stillborn. So again, dude, that was when I would always wonder, like, how the fuck does somebody get the cover? You know how that happens? Dude, you're friends with somebody like that. Yeah, so there you go. Like when I tell you, dude, I've spent a lot of time trying to figure this shit out, man. Ask me anything that on the net, I'll be like, oh, that's run by, so and so, man. But yeah, that was a fucking cool thing. We also they had this thing called buddy bands at the time where like if you bought, remember one of the CDs was Arctic Monkeys, like, and they had our CD stuck on their CD. So it was cool.
Wow,
Like we put a lot into it, man. We toured Europe, States multiple times. I think it was just a little too early,
How'd you get Bert?
Again, just asked him. Like,
I
so
love it.
he was
Love it.
on, yeah, he was
Love
on
it.
he was on Ozfest 02. So, dude, nobody knows the Used, right? And I had heard because I'm a big Glassjaw fan, which I know you guys are too, right? So 2002, Used is on Ozfest. And I'm like, oh, holy shit, they're gonna play. So, dude, I go up again, just like I'm like, I gotta be fucking friends with everybody. So I'm watching them, I'm like, yo, great set. Give the dude a Hatebreed shirt, who he ends up wearing it on the Osbournes. So you see him wearing that Hatebreed shirt, right? So our boy, shout out to Big E, Chauncey, ends up we all just kind of end up staying in touch because AOL Messenger was at the time. So I mean, everybody was online and stuff. And Big E was tour managing or something with the Used. So they play Connecticut. I come to the show, get to sing Box of Sharp Objects with them, which I have photographic proof. If not, I would not believe that it happened. And just straight up, I just said to him, I was like, hey, man, because it was like, this is about a year before the record is like going to happen. So I said to him, I was like, hey, I think we're going to get signed. And if we do, I was like, what do you think you would like, maybe sing on the record? Like, just again, I was like, I'm just going to shoot my shot. And he was like, yeah, fuck it. And he was like, just hit me up when it's time. And dude, like, sure enough, man, like when it was time, he fucking did it, dude. We flew him out, came to the fucking studio for a day. And I just remember sitting back and just being like, I can't believe I'm hearing that voice on something I wrote. Oh, dude, he's, man, and Anthony, like I said, dude, I'm a big Used fan. So hearing those, like, he does like those kind of signature ad-libs and stuff, dude, like watching that in the studio, just absorbing, taking that in. Yeah, it was just something else, man. So again, like, we were just given the opportunity to make this big record, man. What the fuck else am I going to do? I want it all. I've been waiting my whole life to do it,
That's fucking cool, man. I love that it all comes down to just ask, right? It all comes down to that.
Just ask. It sounds so stupid, but it's true, dude. Yeah, I mean, dude, same thing with the store. Just I asked the landlord. I lived at the time before me and my wife bought a house. I lived a couple buildings away. Pandemic happens. This place closes. I'm like, fuck. Like, let me just ask what the guy's doing with it. And he was like, she just moved out. I was like, would you do the rent for X? I'm like, you're not getting anything else. I'm like, everybody else is moving. And he was like, you want to open a retail store? It was like 5 months into the pandemic. I was like, yeah, we're actually going to be celebrating 5 years, dude, next week, which is crazy. So, dude, a lot of my shit has just been just ask. Does it make sense? Can I pivot what I'm doing into something else? Yeah, anything to just kind of like, dude, like the hardcore kid in me just never gives up, dude. So when I'm working in like my daily life with clients, like I work with a lot of major label clients, dude, I apply like the hardcore ethics on some shit and they're just like, oh my God, that's so cool. You could do it. And they just don't understand that there's like 50,000 hardcore kids who are doing 20 things at once, and so they're just like, mind is blown when you're like, you know how to print shirts or you can get shirts made. You're like, yeah, dude, who doesn't?
Like, do that for years.
Yeah.
Well, part of it comes from just knowing at least a little about like an unlimited number of different things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, think of it, Jay. If you didn't come from this world, you wouldn't have opened that record store, right?
Oh, no,
I mean,
dude, I'd probably be like a multi-millionaire lawyer or something super smart, But yeah, no, dude, this was just a lot of, I mean, dude, even like I tell people, like when I open the shop, right? Like I never thought I was going to open a business or know how to fucking pay taxes or none of this shit. It was just like the hardcore kid in me was like, okay, there's no shows. The pandemic shut me down. I have new vinyl from bands because I thought this label was going to do stuff. So I'm like, I got to fucking figure it out. You know what I mean? I was like, well, if not, what am I going to fucking eat records? Like I couldn't, you know what I mean? So the hardcore kid in me is just like, okay, distro and that was just like, okay, dude, do a distro, but like put it in this place. And that was like how it happened. And then I learned about business taxes because I didn't know how the fuck to file them. And I got an email, so a lot of shit's just been like trial and error, learning. But I wouldn't trade it, man. It's been a lot of fun, dude. Stressful, but a lot of fun.
So let's take it to the last, let's say decade, right? So in the last decade in CT, you opened Static Era, then you get bands. And I got to be honest with you, a little bit of a blind spot for me. Like I know of Anxious, I know Restraining Order. I think you've put on Intrusive, right? They're a local band.
So yeah, shout out to Intrusive and Mercy Whip, who are like my two Connecticut bands who are doing some really cool stuff right now. Intrusive got to open the Death Threat anniversary show, and they did some Make Do and Mend show, or not Make Do and Mend. Fuck, I'm drawing a blank on the band, but they've been just playing some great shows. So is Mercy Whip. I very much view them as kind of like the next generation of Connecticut hardcore, you know. But we've got some killer bands, dude. There's bands like Kidnapped that Danny does from Connecticut. Pale Horse is back, and they've been doing a lot of cool stuff. Yeah, we've got Anxious, Restraining Orders like Connecticut Mass, Hybrid. But yeah, I mean, I'm still going to shows like every week, dude. I try to go to as much shit as possible. I love it. Even if I didn't have the shop, dude, I'd still be going. Like I go to everything, man. Like I said, I feel like I caught like a bug that just has never gone away from the tuna. It's probably like a fucking infection or something from the water, you know?
It's not the worst bug to catch, right?
Yeah. There's just, dude, there's so many. I got to shout out some of the venues if I can, man, especially like you know, Ben from Manic and Chris Ark at Manic. They do a great job. There's the Space Ballroom, which is just like, you know, that's kind of where like Madball plays and Comeback Kid and those kinds of level of bands. And then we've got District Music Hall, which we just did Pain of Truth there with Tsunami, and that was sick. And then they've got College Street, which that's where like Hatebreed plays now. That's like a 1,500 cap. It's kind of like compared to like the Worcester, the Palladium, you know. But Ben and those guys are just really doing a lot to, especially with the space, like just doing a lot for the next generation of hardcore kids. They're giving them an outlet with the smaller room. We're doing a show there on the 28th of September. That's all like the younger Connecticut bands that we just picked up. But yeah, I mean, I think it's just super important, you know, for me to give these kids an opportunity and to kind of like just provide everything that was provided to me, you know, dude, like, again, I was really blessed to play shows with everybody and open for this person and do that. And it's like, you know what, man, all these venues need somebody to open these shows. Like, why not fucking, you know, volunteer some of my bands and kind of teach them the ropes. And at the same time too, man, like provide these kids with like really good outlets, man. Like the one thing with Static Air that I'm super proud of is like, we don't own the rights to anybody's shit. Like we don't collect on the publishing. Like we very much are just like a partner, dude. It's very much like, how do we help this band get to the next level, whatever that next level is for them? Obviously some bands that we work with, their next level is like the top, right? And others are just like, yo, we just want to open for sheer terror. So I'm here for any of that in between, man, because again, I just feel like I was so lucky that a lot of it, dude, I feel like it's almost unfair to not give some of it back, you know? Because again, we were just so blessed to do so much shit, dude. Like, I feel like we got to do, even if the distance isn't talked about as much or the voice reason isn't talked about, it's just like me personally, I can't take for granted everything that was done for me, you know? And I get so much joy, even if it sounds corny, man, like seeing these kids get their first show, dude, or like put out their fucking CD or like, dude, help them get it on digital, man. Like there's this little band, I'm going to shout them out, Syndicate from Connecticut. And they're like, I think they're like in 8th grade. And the kid came into the shop.
Nice.
He's like, Jay, how do we get our stuff online? And da 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 da. And you know what, dude? We did it for them. We handed over all the rights to their parents. The parents collect all the things. And it's just like, it's magical because then these kids are able to be like, look, we're on spot. Like, it's just like to them,
amazing.
We're dude, I remember back in the day, like trying to figure something out. Somebody'd be like, oh yeah, dude, I need 50% of your thing. And it's all this shit.
Yeah.
And then we'd never get anything, dude. You know what I mean? So a lot of like what I do today is like a reflection of how either well or how poorly we were treated back then. And then just making sure that's not happening today.
So Jay, no label owner has ever said what you just said. We don't own any of the publishing. No label owners ever.
Yeah, we don't. So, dude, we don't collect. Because again, man, you got to remember something. I'm a guy who's signed some shitty fucking contracts. I just wanted to get shit done.
Yeah, you've been through it.
And I've been through it. And then again, dude, I'm very blessed to work with a lot of artists who were in the major label system and who are still in the major label system. And I do like a lot of like untangling work for them. Yeah, and shit gets crazy, man. So my whole thing is just like, just want to be able to put out the record, look at it, and then maybe be like, yeah, I helped that band get to that. And I'm happy, man. Again, I've been really lucky to work with so much cool shit that I don't really need to fucking make $10 off somebody or $100 off somebody. Like, I don't see the reward in that. I mean, maybe other people do. And again, that's no judgment on how anybody runs their shit. Just for me personally, I don't see it for me. I don't think I would want to do shit like that.
Yeah. And, you know, it's not for everybody, obviously, to do it that way because some people are in it to make money. They're not necessarily in it for the art or for the scene.
Which we make money, though. That's the whole thing. What's enough, right, dude? It's like, I'm not in the fucking band. I'm not going and touring with you. I'm at home. So let me just get what's fair. I'm obviously going to pay what I have to pay, which I think there are certain things that are super important, like publicity, manufacturing, like all of those things, man. But there are just certain things, and I'm like, why the fuck would I take something that like I didn't write from you? Like I just don't. Again, I just don't see it. There's a lot of people who that's how they do their thing. But for me, dude, like again, I've just been super lucky to make a lot in other ways with other things that I did that I just don't need to do that with Static Era. You know what I mean? So I'm really lucky, dude. And again, we licensed a ton of shit with War God. We've done like Fuel, and that we just recently did the Agnostic Front thing. And again, dude, a lot of that's just for fucking. I just have such a great time seeing like an Ace Ventura thing we did, or a Sopranos record, or Eve 6, or any of those cool things. Because to me, dude, it's like I just the kid who walked into the tune-in and saw the record on the wall, or any of those things, that has not changed, obviously. So much of my shit's just like, yeah, fuck it, let's do it, let's have a good time. If it becomes stressful, that's when I don't want to do it anymore. So I was the first thing I tell bands, like, dude, if we're not going to have a good time, or if you're looking to do it like this kind of way, like I'm the first to just be like, look, dude, it might not be for you. You know what I mean? Because I have my own way of doing things. There are things that are right, there are things that are wrong. Like, but yeah, I'm just very much feel like I'm just here to help people get to the next part of their journey, whatever that is. Sorry for the longest fucking answer ever, guys. I'm so sorry.
Amazing.
Do you notice with the younger era that the new kids that they're big upping each other like you guys did back, in the 90s and the early 2000s? Or is it a little more competition?
I wouldn't say it's competition, but what I will say I notice is just like, and this is a very broad net I'm going to catch, so please no one hate me. I noticed that with the younger kids, it's a little bit harder to get them to work. Whereas I feel like if the distance was like let's say the distance started in 2025 and I was 20 years old, with all the tools and shit that are available, I just know what I would work and how I would do shit.
You'd be eating their lunch, Jay.
Oh, dude, I know. So when I see like younger bands that I'm like giving opportunities, and again, dude, I don't tell people what to do, but I'll set you on the path and kind of push you. And then when I see that I'm like, hey man, I need this, and it takes you a day, 2 days, and it's something important, fuck man, I'm like, it's the easiest thing, So like, I would say like in the younger generation, that's the one thing I've noticed is just maybe like the lack of urgency on certain things. But again, dude, I'm not on TikTok, so I don't know what the fuck pops or how to make any of that shit happen. I just know that like, man, nothing has replaced playing live shows. People are still going there. Everything that's big online, dude, maybe doesn't draw. A lot of people, man, they're still just catching music, when they're fucking out of work and they go to the show and they're seeing that opening band. And that's kind of what I instill in the bands I work with. Because, dude, especially with the younger bands, you just get a lot of like, oh, this, that, the third, viral and this shit. And then you just got to explain to them like, okay, dude, that's like one thing. And you got to kind of explain to them that that's not really the reality of things, right? Like, and that just, dude, real life is so different, man. You still have to get out there. You have to talk to people. You have to be going to shows. Like, you can't like expect 100 people to go to your show if you're not supporting like the 5 other bands that you play with or that you're trying to play with, or you're not going to that promoter's shows, right? Like I was telling you guys earlier, man, I went to fucking everything. Like to the point that like when I went to go give Jamie my demo, like he didn't know me, but he had seen my face because I had been to shows, I had been talking, I've been trying to do shit. And I think that like sometimes that gets lost, especially like the younger generation. I've noticed they're just like maybe like not as like I don't want to say like intimidated, but they're not like as talkative to like people. Like you kind of got to like push them a little bit more, like, hey man, what do you need? Like, what do you want to do? What are you trying to get? So I would say like that's been my biggest difference, dude, is trying to kind of get in that mindset of being like, okay, do I just have to be more on top of this? Do I have to ask them more what they're trying to do? Which is like kind of the opposite of how all of us grew up. It was just like, yeah, I mean, go, you kind of fucking hit the wall, you hit it, you hit the ground running and you're just kind of like asking for shit, which this is like, I have, again, some of the bands, I'll just be like, dude, just fucking do this. Like, it's all you got to do, So a lot of that is just like reframing myself. But I feel like that with that being able to reframe myself, especially in the mindset, like is what makes it easy to work with me. I have very little expectations. I mean, dude, again, like without naming the band, Jamie and I had put out a record on Stillborn, pressed, I want to say like, dude, like 10,000 because we were shipping like probably like 5,000 or 6,000 CDs at that time. We paid for this fucking huge ad to run on all the Ozfest Jumbotrons. The band broke up the day the Jumbotron ads ran. I won't even tell you how much that ad fucking cost.
Oh, I'm sure it wasn't cheap.
No, but I will tell both of you that I tell that story every day when someone, or every time somebody says something crazy to me like that. I'll say, dude, you got to remember something. When it mattered in my life, I fucking spent a shit ton of money and the band broke up. I couldn't even fucking give the CDs away. So luckily
Crazy.
now I'm just kind of just like, I'm just here, dude. You know what I mean? Like, however you want to do it. You want to do it to the fucking moon, or you just want to play the show next door. I'm with all of it.
Yeah, I think this younger generation, and I have kids, but I don't have kids old enough in that
Mm-hmm.
generation. But I can kind of, I'm online enough. I think for them, like their currency is likes and comments, it's followers. That doesn't translate to putting asses in the seats
No.
live. It doesn't. I mean,
no, or buying CDs or records.
yeah, like the proof is in the pudding. And you said something that like is so true. If you're not supporting like the 5 or 6 bands, they're gonna get people in the room locally, then it ain't gonna work.
No,
You're gonna have to leave your region and hope it works.
because, well, dude, you're basically asking somebody like, hey, man, I've never supported you and what you're doing, but I need you to come watch me. The fuck? Right? You know what I mean? So again,
Yeah.
like a lot of times, dude, my whole thing with the bands I start working with, some of them are really good about it, but then there's some that just don't come from our scene that are trying to like do stuff. I'm just like, dude, you gotta fucking go to the show. Like, and they're like, oh, I'm hanging with my girl. I'm like, dude, you gotta fucking go. I don't care. I'm like, I need, and it sucks that music is like this, but dude, it's just like that person needs to see you there so that they can give you the shot. Once you get to wherever the fuck you're going to do whatever you want. But the beginning part of this is so much you guys know is like, okay, who do you know? How do you behave? Can you draw X amount of kids? Are you going to be on time? Are you going to be respectful of the venue? Are your friends going to be shitheads? Like, a lot of my time too, dude, working with like a younger kids, especially with like Intrusive and Mercy, which are more like aggressive hardcore bands, is just reminding them like, hey man, same thing, Hatebreed. You can't control your friends. So make sure you fucking tell them if we're playing this venue, do not fucking act out, because they're not going to blame that friend. They're going to blame your fucking band. And then you're never going to play this dude's thing again. And he books every fucking band and he's friends with every promoter. So a lot of my stuff is, again, just kind of like bringing them under my wing and being like, hardcore 101 guys, and just seeing from there who kind of percolates, man. And then we're just like, okay, man, let's get the record. Let's do this. Again, dude, I've been really lucky that for the most part, Intrusive, Declan, I just saw him at every fucking show, and he used to come into my shop. And I jokingly said to him, I was like, oh, yo, when your band is ready, I'm going to put it out. Because again, I just saw him at every fucking show. He was at every show, came into my shop. Same thing with Mercy Whip. I have an office space I keep in Norwalk in the studio, and Devin works in that studio. And he's just a sweetheart of a kid. And I just said, I hadn't even heard the band. I just said, I was like, dude, I think you're such a cool kid. I was like, I'll put it out. Yeah. Luckily, the record ripped. Yeah. But I was just like, you know what, dude, help people, because people did this for me. It wasn't like, I just was like, yeah, here, fucking putting shit out. People were like, yo, here, do this, do that. So I really try, man, every day to kind of remember that when I'm doing shit.
Well, and that goes back to investing in people, right? And instead of investing in necessarily what the it thing at the moment, you're like, okay, this is a person that I know is going places, even if I maybe don't like the music.
Or the band breaks up, or
the grind.
Look at something like if you look at something like Greg from Greg from Risk Taken, Silver Bullet Studios. That's how I know Greg and my relationship with Greg. Like, I met him, we put out Risk Taken breaks up, but Greg starts a studio. We still keep in touch. He's booking, he's recording bands. We're doing stuff. He mixes, so again, it's just like this through line of like, I knew that I had always wanted to work with Greg when I first met him. He didn't have the studio yet. He had just kind of started recording. And I was like, oh, that's an interesting dude. He's a good player. I'm like, I'll just put out his band. Because sometimes that was just all it is, dude, to me. It's just like, I may not get them on their right band, but I'm going to invest in that person. I want to be a part of that journey and that story, however small or big, but I want to be in it.
Well, we've been talking about it. We haven't pimped the location yet. Static Era Records. It's in Milford, right? Milford, Connecticut.
Yeah, I hope you guys can come down one day. It's in Milford, Connecticut, which is like in between New Haven and Bridgeport. It's a super chill place. We're open Wednesday through Saturday, 12 to 6. Shout out to Austin and Doug, who hold it down for me here. I'm like not really here that much anymore, but we're going to be celebrating 5 years the week of September 24th, 25th, 26th. The big day here is going to be 9/27. We got like the mascot suit, free Polaroids. It's going to be like a Toys R Us grand opening is the only thing I could like equate it to. but yeah, man, it's been a journey about the shop. A lot of fun, but yeah, stressful, but super cool. A lot of fun. Runs itself now, which is really nice.
And I mean, opening in the pandemic and still rocking 5 years later is that's pretty awesome, man. I mean, I'm not surprised by talking with you for an hour and a half, but it's awesome.
You know, it's funny, Tony. It's like I didn't realize how far, like, or how should I say this? So, like, I didn't realize how soon into the pandemic we opened until like a couple of months ago on the news when the lady said, like, oh, the pandemic started 5 years ago this day. And I was like, oh, fuck, we're going to celebrate 5 years. Like, yeah, it was crazy. All my friends thought I was like insane. I guess they had started a separate group chat making sure I was all right, which I only found out about after because everybody was so concerned with just me doing it and the whole thing. But you know what, dude? It's like, again, I just saw opportunity. I knew the town I live in is there's just never any empty storefronts, and if there is, they're never letting a hardcore kid opening a store, and the rents are never going to be affordable. So I was like, all right, fuck. I'm like, this is probably once in a lifetime. Like, I'm just going to ask the guy, and yeah, our landlord is so awesome, and he loves the shop, and his friends come and buy records, and it's something else, man. The shop is like its own thing. We not to talk too much about it, but we filmed a reality show pilot about a year and a half ago. So we've been shopping that, and that's been getting refined for a little while. So maybe there'll be some news soon. But yeah, we filmed a whole pilot around the shop and some travel elements, and yeah, so some cool stuff working on the shop and the behind the scenes things.
We get two quick hitters before we get out of here. But before that, I want to say,
if they're not quick, they're not quick. It's okay.
Yeah, they can be quick. Can be long.
I have talked so much. I feel bad, guys. I didn't talk nothing about Connecticut.
No,
I just talked about myself. So sorry.
No,
and that's where I'm going here, which is the last 30 years that we spent a lot of time on some parts and skipped over some. The through line is you're still doing it. Like you
crazy.
Jay, you don't have to do the label. You don't have to do the store. Like it you love it, right? I mean, that's what I'm gathering.
Dude, I love it, and I love my friends, man. Like I know it's like the corniest hardcore song right there, right? I love my store, I love my friends, but like it's the truth, man. Like can I tell you, man? Like, you know, again, shout out to somebody like Pete, dude. Like when somebody like Pete from 100 Demons asks my opinion on something, dude, I'm just a fan. I'm like, holy fuck, this dude gives a shit about something. He values my input, you know. So again, dude, something like that, dude, and seeing people like, you know, dude, like Sean, Martin, Pete, Beatty, all these guys who are older than me still going to shows and still being around. It's like, man, they're still going. I want to see my friends, dude. You know what I mean? Like, and I think it's important too, going back to what I said, man, it's like, how could I have a shop that sells this shit if I'm not out there supporting the band? How could I expect a young kid to come and spend his paycheck here if I'm not going to watch his band, if I'm not carrying his demo, if I'm not actively involved in the community, dude? It's like you're asking a lot of people if you're not there with them, right? So like if I'm asking you to like, hey man, please consider spending a portion of like the fucking money you work hard on a big ass truck vinyl, you know, like I got to make sure that like, you know, it's a cool place.
Love that. I love that. That's and you're clearly passionate about it. We love that because man. We've been doing this for almost 5.5, 6 years, and
yeah, dude, shout out to you guys, man.
Thank you. We started the first day of the pandemic, so we can relate to the pandemic, but like that was the time to start a podcast. I wish we had started like 10 years ago versus 5, but we've been grinding it out for.
Hey, it's better than starting 5 days ago, though, right? So like at least now, dude, 100%. The lucky thing for you guys is like, say somebody like me who finds you guys. Now there's like this huge library, dude. I was able to deep dive and listen to so many people that I liked. Like you guys had Daryl on, you guys had fucking dude from Hoobastank on. So it's like, whereas like if it had just started and you just had Daryl, I might not have been able to go back. So it's like, in a lot of ways, man, I tell people like, again, working with clients, it's like, dude, just because you're not seeing the result today doesn't mean it's not going to happen, right? If you want ice for your drink tomorrow, you got to put it in the fridge tonight. So it's like shit takes a second, it's like might take fucking 20, 30 episodes before the algorithm finds you. Might take a minute. But you know what, dude? When that fucking one kid finds you and becomes obsessed with your podcast, he's going to be so psyched that there's 30 fucking other things to go listen to and things to check out, and that's what's cool because like, I did a podcast with Isaac and me and him are going to try to bring it back, but consistency is so important. And like, we weren't able to do it consistent. So it's like, again, when I'm doing something, I want it to be a certain level. And that's what I admire about you guys. It's like you stick through it and you do it. And that's what I think makes a successful podcast. Especially too, like I said, man, a listener comes in and they find you guys. It's like, now there's this whole library of stuff to check out, where even if you missed a week or two, there's still so much shit to listen to,
There's a lot of hours back there, and some of it you can ignore if you're listening to this for the first time.
This early like
Well,
demo shit.
Great,
just don't listen to that.
But we leave it up because
everybody
it's part of the
starts
journey.
somewhere.
Yeah, it's part of the journey.
And dude, everybody starts. And if you start removing shit like that, it looks corny, right? It looks like you're trying to like clean yourself up from like, doing stuff like, dude, I did a Voice of Reason discography that has like fucking way too many tracks, but like half of them are like garbage demos. But I was like, I have to show this because it's so important, because it's part of the whole thing. And some of it's the fucking worst shit you've ever heard, but just skip it, It's
part of the journey, man. It's part of how it made you get to where you are today, whether that be wherever you're at. You know what I mean? Let's say us with the podcast, you with the store. Like without that stuff, you're not there.
Yeah.
Jay, I'm gonna hit you. I was skimming through New Beginnings, the album, Voice of Reason record, and it prompted me to come up with this question, which is, if I email jreason@aol.com, will I
have it? Yes.
No
right
way.
Right now. Yes. Yep.
Oh, why?
AOL is still a company. That's
AOL. So AOL is free. My dad still only uses AOL. So when we had to, yeah, shout out Juan and Maria. But so what happened was, actually going back to the original days of AOL, my mom is super religious, so like, internet was bad, whatever. AOL used to give you the free hours, remember, on CDs. And I just fucking created Jay Reason on one of those CDs, and then got my first debit card, I think, at the time. The only way to, and I paid for AOL up until I like moved out of the house. And then my dad, like, my dad still uses that email address, but it's just free. So I never like deleted the account, So yeah, if you write me, it still goes to my like my main fucking email.
Way.
Dude, you'd be surprised. Like, can I tell you? Like, it's funny. So, shout out to Tim from Roland Coffin. Dudes like his generation, like Tim was in Vision of Disorder. We worked together on Roland Coffin. He will write me at my AOL, even though I will write him from my like new email address every time. He will always jreason@aol.com. So yeah, I've just kept it because I'm like, you know what? What if somebody from fucking 1998 buys New Beginnings and they want to talk about it? I'm here for it.
Or somebody's cleaning out their closet and they find an old AOL CD and they make their own AOL.
Yeah, bring back chat rooms, dude.
Dude, instant messenger chat rooms are great.
Yeah.
I do miss those days, even though they were ridiculous and dumb, but we had a lot of fun with them.
Hell yeah.
I love that you brought up the CD, because like anybody under the age of probably 35 is like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Oh, CD, dude. I'm just we can wrap it after this, but I will tell you this: that CDs are bigger than ever, especially.
No, I mean the AOL CD.
Regular
CDs are back. Regular
CDs are fucking massive. Yeah, the AOL CD is kind of weird that like you used to just get free hours. But I remember, dude, like that was how I didn't get a computer till like I said, a little bit later. We used to go to Vans, that was the drummer Voice Reason, to go online. But like once we got online, that's how I met so many hardcore kids, because there was a hardcore AOL chat rooms. And you would just like talk about shows and this, that, the third. And like, dude, that's how I met so many fucking people, dude, and emailed, and we would trade tapes. And then, yeah, like once Voice of Reason starts, I had a P.O. box. I don't have that anymore. So if you do write to that P.O. box, I unfortunately won't get that letter. But, dude, I had a P.O. box and we get all kinds of crazy shit from like Japan and all. It was just like, Anthony, it was such a different time. Like when I tell those stories, I'm sure you guys feel that way too. It's just like, it sounds like the most foreign shit ever,
Oh yeah, like even like the early days of me going to shows, it was MapQuest. There was no GPS. It's like,
I hope you found it.
Yeah, hope you found it. And I told this story.
And if it's somebody's house,
on an old episode, I ended up at the dude from All About Records' house.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So Jay, last question.
Yes.
No explanation. Just 4 band names. Mic drop. The Rushmore of CTHC.
Oh, easy. Hatebreed, Demons, Death Threat. And then this will be a controversial 4th, because I don't know, people might be like, oh, they were, but for me, it's going to be Fastbreak, dude. I'm sorry.
Right on. Yeah.
Fucking love them so much.
Yeah, you got to have one controversial pick.
Yeah.
It's required.
People are going to be like, oh, they moved to Boston, and then they started, and Jay Reason started wearing the blue button-down shirt in the record. And, might lose it. But, guys, I wanted to thank you so much for doing it, for letting me come on and talk way longer than I'm sure anybody wanted, but I really appreciate it. And thank you for asking about the band and the store and just giving me your time. And I really, really appreciate you guys. It's so awesome.
This is a blast, man.
This is everything we thought it would be and more.
Awesome. Yeah. And if anybody needs me, jreason@aol.com.
Yep,
I'm
there
there.
you go.
I swear to God, I will write you back.
Sweet, man. Well, thank you, Jay. We'll be in touch.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Thank you for listening to Podio Slave. We are at Podio Slave on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, all of the places that you can find us on social media. Facebook, Podio Slave Podcast. YouTube, Podio Slave Podcast there. Email us at podioslavepodcast@gmail.com. And hey, if you want to become a supporter, click on the link at the bottom of the episode and give us $1, give us $5. It keeps the lights on, keeps us going. We really appreciate that stuff. Thank you.